What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and not welcome back. And you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, you know you one of them. But if you're not, or if you're not new here, welcome. I hope you're well. Y'all, in a couple of weeks, it's gonna be 2 years since my hair has been locked. And I cannot believe that it's been 2 years already. I still remember the day, that random day that I saw that girl's TikTok with those beautiful locks that made me say, yeah, I wanna lock my hair. And literally, I had not ever considered it before. When I saw her hair, I knew. And like literally 2 days later, I was locked. And I've never regretted it. But anyway, that is not what we're here for. But is it? Because this is my channel. It's always a little bit of room for me, you know? Y'all really love when I get into these neighbor feud cases. So we got another one we're going to talk about today. And it's a wild ride. Let's get into it. So this one takes place in Harlem, New York, 131st Street to be exact, where a lot of the residents in this particular neighborhood are very familiar with each other. Rarely is there an unfamiliar face on the scene. Everyone knows everyone. And most of them have been living in their space for decades. Now, one of the most familiar of faces is that of Hampton Smith, aka Smitty. He's an older gentleman. He is one of the neighborhood elders that has been around for as long as most of the kids and young adults can remember. And Smitty is the type that is like a father figure to everyone. He looks out for the neighborhood, very willing to help people whenever he sees that they might need help. And his reputation for like sort of looking after everybody has earned him the nickname the Watchman. Very nice guy. Everybody loves him. And he's actually originally from the South, but he's been in this particular neighborhood for 25 years now. And Smitty has an apartment on the second floor of a 5-story Harlem apartment building that he shares with his longtime partner. And he and said partner have been together for 20 years and married for 5. Smitty is also the superintendent of his apartment building, and his best friend Ronnie is the super of the adjacent apartment building. Did y'all ever watch the PJs growing up? The thing is, I'm in the South, so I rarely hear the term superintendent, but when I do, I always hear it in Juicy's voice.
Great Super, we gonna be in the cook-off together.
No matter how serious the situation. So Smitty, he's nicknamed the Watchman. His bestie Ronnie has a nickname as well. They call him the Mayor. Okay, and this name was given to him by the people. Both of them are beloved in the neighborhood. Now, Rosetta, she lives in Smitty's apartment building, and when her brother Bruce needs a place to stay, she allows him to come and live with her. Bruce, who is in his 50s, he had worked construction nearly all of his life and had unfortunately suffered a hip injury that put him out of work and subsequently gave him, you know, a little piece of hard times. And Bruce is, unlike his sister, a very quiet, reserved individual. He's not all that chatty, but everybody in the neighborhood very quickly becomes familiar with him because, like I said, rarely do they see an unfamiliar face. So once, you know, somebody new comes on the scene and how close everybody else is, there is chatter about who said person is. And they also grow to know him very quickly because each day Bruce likes to go out and take a bike ride to, you know, exercise that hip. And he does so at the exact same time every day. And someone else who takes frequent bike rides is Smitty. That's actually his main and preferred method of transportation. Smitty is always riding that bike here and there. It also helps Smitty to keep in shape as a man in his 70s. Now, he and Bruce, they bond a little bit over the fact that they both ride bikes often. And when Bruce starts having issues with his bike, Smitty offers to fix it at no cost to him and guarantees him that he'll have it back up running better than before in no time, which he does. Now, as Bruce is getting settled into his new living situation with his sister, the neighborhood is very welcoming. All of the things are going well. There's just one thing that Bruce is having trouble with during this adjustment period, and that is the noise that he is hearing coming from the unit above them. Now, at first, he tries his best to ignore it, only complaining to his sister Rosetta, you know, in just conversation. Surprised to find that she was not bothered by the noise and had never complained about it before. Bruce also brings it up to the lady that lives right next door to him and Rosetta, Miss Mary. And child, I guess he just decided, while I'm at it, I might as well tell everybody I talk to, because he has a conversation with Ronnie, the superintendent from the building across the street, lets him know as well, like, the people upstairs are so noisy. It's loud noise all throughout the night, very disturbing. I can't rest. And Ronnie is like, oh, the person that lives upstairs is Speedy. I have a conversation with him. Ronnie insists that, you know, it's nothing a little bit of communication can't fix. And he insists that If Smitty just knew that he was being a disturbance, he would surely fix the issue. Like, he's likely unaware. Smitty also has cats, and Ronnie believes that, it might just be the cats making noise. Again, something that he is unaware of and can resolve once he is made aware. And it appears as though Ronnie is right. Smitty apologizes for the noise. He was unaware, and he assures Bruce that he will keep it down going forward. Now, there is also this woman that Bruce has been seeing come and go from the building, and he is very attracted to her. Whenever he sees her, he goes out of his way to open the door for her, compliment her, and finally decides that he's going to take that chance and shoot his shot. The woman's name is Yvette, and when Bruce takes the shot at her, she lets him know, like, I'm so sorry about it, but I am taken. Like, I'm married, so extra taken. But her letting him know that she was married does not deter him at all. Bruce could appreciate a little chase. He sees her and he wants her, and so he takes every opportunity to try and flirt with her. Now, his apartment is on the first floor. All he knows about her is her name and that she lives on one of the higher floors. He would try to catch her coming home from work or catch her coming down the stairs just to get a little moment of her time. And one day he catches her and finally gets to see her with her partner. And her partner is Smitty. So first he has found out that Smitty is the one that is making all the noise that is keeping him up at night. And now Smitty got the girl of his dreams. The woman he has his eye on, he has his crush on, has been fantasizing over, is going home to Mr. Smitty. At this point, Smitty is down 2 stars in Bruce's book. Despite Smitty apologizing about the noise and promising to keep it down and be mindful, the noises have continued. And what also continues is Bruce trying to shoot his shot at Yvette. The two of them were both in their 50s, closer to age than she was to Smitty was in his 70s. And Bruce just couldn't understand why she wanted an older gentleman instead of a young, strapping man like himself. To him, it just didn't make sense. And over time, he grows to resent Smitty, unable to continue to fake those niceties. And he also kind of grows resentful toward Yvette as well. This very sudden shift in his personality felt very random to Smitty and to Yvette. This sudden shift in his personality and treatment of Yvette and Smitty kind of caught them off guard and felt really random to them because it felt very sudden that he started being rude and nasty and mean. And y'all, they just questioned whether or not Bruce had a few screws loose upstairs, just rattling and rolling around in that head of his. And no matter how quiet they attempted to be, it just, to him, downstairs, it was never quite quiet enough. He continues to complain to Miss Mary next door, who likes to play her music very loud. The two of them share a wall, and so she asks if her music ever disturbs him, and apparently not. No, the loud music coming from across the wall is never a disturbance. It's only the loud noise coming from upstairs. Another interesting thing is the way the apartment building is set up. Smitty's apartment upstairs overlaps the one Bruce is living in downstairs in Miss Mary's apartment by some. And she says she's never heard any noise coming from upstairs. And she's also a long-term resident. She's like, for as long as I've lived here, I've never known him to be a noisy neighbor. As the months progress, Bruce goes from just complaining to everybody to taking a little bit of action. He would take the broomstick and beat on the ceiling in the middle of the night, yelling for them to keep it down up there. And I'm not quite sure of the details surrounding this part, but Rosetta, his sister, she moves out of the apartment, leaving Bruce to live there by himself. I have my theories. I'll get into that toward the end of the video. Now, when Rosetta was there with him, he was a lot more mindful of his interactions with the neighbors. Yeah, he was a little rude to Smitty and Yvette upstairs, but he was not as quick to confront the neighbors directly, probably not wanting to make things awkward for Rosetta. But with her gone, there's really nothing holding him back from doing so. So one afternoon, when the noise drives him to a breaking point, he storms upstairs to confront them, banging on the door real obnoxiously. Smitty is not home. It's just Yvette and the cats, and he fully unleashes his fury upon her. And he also allegedly threatened her as well. Said he was going to do something to her if she didn't stop the noise. And Yvette did not take too kindly to this threat. Now, Mama is a spicy Latina girl. She was not for any of it. So she matches his energy, lets him know she is not afraid of him. And then after he goes back downstairs, she calls her husband, lets him know what happened. And as you know, Smitty works in the building, so he was not far. He comes home immediately. Because what you're not going to do is storm up to my house and disrespect my woman, make her uncomfortable, threaten her, or none of the things, okay? At least not on Smitty's watch. And during this confrontation, things get physical because Bruce pushes Smitty. And instead of pushing him back, Smitty calls the police. And he reports that he has been assaulted and his wife has been threatened. The police do come out, but they don't really do anything about the situation aside from hear everybody out. And I don't know what else they really could have done in this situation aside from, ask Smitty if he wanted to press assault charges. And shortly after this incident, police receive yet another phone call from this apartment building, but this time it is Bruce calling, alleging that he had run into Yvette outside. She had put her hand in her pocket, insinuating that she had a gun that she was going to pull out on him. Now, according to Yvette, she was out minding her business when Bruce had approached her outside of the apartment building, and she felt threatened by him. She didn't know what he was trying to do. And so, she may have stuck her little hand in her pocket and pretended she had a weapon or whatever, but it was because she wanted him away from her. He tells the dispatcher that he feels threatened. He believes that she actually does have a weapon, although he admits that he never actually saw one. And because of that fact, they don't actually dispatch a car. Because why are you wasting our time, Mr. Sir? And this, of course, does not sit well with him either, because when he called the police, they didn't show up. However, when they called, the police came running. The cycle continues of him accusing them of making a lot of noise, him knocking on the roof, going upstairs, banging on the door, threatening to beat Smitty's old ass if he did not quiet down, them both calling the police on one another. Mind you, Yvette has never told Smitty that Bruce had been trying to get with her. She has decided to keep that little tidbit of information to herself, fearing that it would just fuel the fire. And the last thing she wants to do is make matters worse. Sometimes he would accuse them of making noise when they weren't even home. Now, in the beginning, people wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt and think maybe the cats was up there knocking things over. But it's only so much noise that cats really can make on their little 4 feet. So people started to question whether or not Bruce was really hearing these noises or if they were all in his head. Mind you, he is seemingly always at home, just alone in that apartment by himself. He's gradually becoming more rude, and now it's to everybody. And it's starting to look like that sister left because Bruce was probably intimidating her and mentally unraveling. Yvette and Smitty both do their best to just completely avoid him. And one instance, he catches Yvette outside and tells her, keep the noise down. You get up there. And she is very much fed up. I told y'all she was a little spicy. She starts to yell in the street. She said, "You want to know what noise is? I'll show you noise. This is noise." And she just starts hollering her head off for all the people to hear and see. She screams to the top of her little lungs, "Baby, this is noise." This, of course, leads to the two of them exchanging words yet again. And the moment he threatens her, physical violence, she calls the police to report it. Police come out and they tell Bruce, if something doesn't give, because at this point, years have gone by. This is over the span of years. At this point, one of y'all will have to move. We can't keep coming out here like this. But Bruce does not want to move out of that apartment, and Smitty and Yvette, they don't want to move out of theirs either. They're actually both hoping the other will break and move first. So now we get to a point where Bruce has decided he is going to be just as big of a disturbance to them as they are to him. He would take the handle of his broom, bang on the ceiling, and Yvette would match his energy. She would start stomping on the floor, so they would just be going back and forth, just giving this little sheetrock between them hell. Is it sheetrock? I don't know. One night they are going back and forth so bad that Bruce comes upstairs, knocks on the door, tells Smitty to come outside so they can fight. But Yvette tells him, you are not going out there to fight that man. For one, Smitty was a small man, about 150 pounds, and Bruce is a lot bigger than him. It just was not worth it. Now they are disturbing other neighbors who come out and try to de-escalate the situation, calm Bruce down. Bruce then goes downstairs. Outside of the building, there's a call box with a very obnoxious buzzer. Now, if you're from up north, you probably are used to that buzzer, but to me it's very obnoxious. He buzzes Smitty's apartment over and over, telling him to come outside, meet me outside. Like, enough is enough. Let's engage in fisticuffs. Still, at the urging of his wife, Smitty ignores him. He does not go outside, and Bruce stands outside, hitting their buzzer until it no longer works. He wears that buzzer out, literally. And Smitty and Yvette, they are just sitting in their apartment doing their best to ignore it, even though they know it's only a matter of time before they would have to run into him. He lives right downstairs. But again, they're doing their best to avoid him. Meanwhile, Bruce is now taking his anger and frustrations out on little Miss Mary next door, just being rude and nasty to her. In his mind, he felt like, or he believed that Miss Mary was taking up for Smitty, saying she didn't hear any noises because she had been there living longer than Bruce had, and she liked Smitty, and basically everybody was in cahoots. And all of the neighbors have a feeling that something strange is going on inside of that unit, and they're about to get a glimpse of how strange it is. One of the members of maintenance has to go into Bruce's apartment to paint the inside of his door, and the apartment is just black. Like, no lights are on inside of the apartment. All of the windows and blinds are shut. Bruce is just sitting there in the dark, and when the maintenance guy asked about light so he could just paint the door, instead of turning on the light or opening the window, Bruce takes his phone, turns on the flashlight, and holds it to the door so the man can paint. And that's all the light that he was trying to give the man, which was really strange. And the man was very uncomfortable. He just did his job, baby, and left. Smitty, Ronnie, everybody is just still trying to figure out, like, how did we get here? Why is this man so hostile? And why does he seem to hate Smitty so much? And so Yvette finally comes around to telling him the missing piece, that Bruce had been trying to get with her, making passes at her, and she had turned him down. And this, of course, does unfortunately add fuel to the fire. The next time they see one another, Smitty does bring it up, and they nearly come to blows. The neighbors had to step in and physically separate the two men. And everyone collectively just decides to keep their distance from Bruce, further isolating him. But everybody was fearful of his rage and him not being wrapped too tight, you know? They were nosy like me. At least a few of them, because a few of them were keeping an eye on Bruce via his social media page, his Facebook account. And on the Facebook account are some very concerning posts. His entire timeline is just a bunch of photos of women in bondage and tied up in all these compromising positions. And honestly, that wasn't even the strange part. The strange part was that all of these women look eerily similar to Yvette. It gave obsession. It was very strange. And I'm not sure whether or not Yvette was made aware of these Facebook posts, because the neighbor that looked at the page and gave an interview said that she felt like, and she insinuated that a couple of the other neighbors felt like it was best for Yvette not to know about the Facebook page because that would really make her uncomfortable and freak her out, and they didn't want to do that. But it definitely left several of them believing that he was now obsessed with her, and like this thing was deeper than any of them knew. Now, October 17th, 2019, in the middle of the night, Yvette and Smitty are awakened to these loud thuds on their floor. Yet again, Bruce is downstairs banging on his ceiling. He's on yet another tirade. He is yelling for them to stop the noise. And these banging sounds sound a bit more unhinged than the previous ones. And that's because he is down there actually using a hammer now, just tearing away at the sheetrock, if that's what it's called up there. This particular time, they opt not to call the police. They felt like it would just make things worse. They would have to get out of bed. It'll be this whole thing. And so they just try to ignore him. The very next morning, Bruce does not take his routine bike ride that he usually would to, work out that janky hip. He actually does not leave his apartment all morning long, and everyone else has continued to go about their regularly scheduled programming. Smitty comes home a little bit after 2 p.m. for his lunch break at his usual time. He has lunch upstairs in his apartment with Yvette. Meanwhile, Bruce goes and hides behind the stairwell, waiting for Smitty to come down so he can go back to work. And as soon as Smitty gets down the stairs, Bruce emerges from behind them, rushes the older man, and immediately starts pummeling him. Like, at no point does it look like Smitty is able to really fight back. He does try to kick Bruce off of him, but Bruce, like I mentioned before, is a lot bigger than him, likely stronger, and at no point does Bruce let up. He then takes a knife from his pocket and jabs it into Smitty over and over, somewhere around 11 times. And after that, takes a gun from his pocket and fires a single shot execution style into Smitty, and then takes Smitty's keys from his pocket. Now, all of the sounds and the commotion have gotten the attention of Yvette upstairs. After hearing the shot, she comes to the stairway and she sees Bruce still standing there in arms. She immediately turns around, runs back to her apartment, locks the door, calls 911, and as she is on the phone with the dispatcher, she hears keys entering her door. The lock turns and it is Bruce, because mind you, he's taken Smitty's keys. Unfortunately, this man has premeditated every detail of the day, hence why he had taken Smitty's keys. He walks right up to Yvette and fires twice. Now, with all of this commotion, Yvette screaming, multiple shots being fired, several of the neighbors call for the police, who are now on their way. Bruce runs back to his own apartment, locks the door, barricading himself inside, and then he just starts randomly spraying bullets into the wall that he shares with Miss Mary. And usually at around 2:50 p.m., she and her gentleman caller, her male friend, they would be back at her apartment by then. But by the grace of God, she was running late on this particular day. Now her partner, her gentleman caller, her male friend, said that she was smoking a cigarette that day, and that cigarette just so happened to save their lives, because that cigarette was why they were behind a couple of minutes. And luckily, no one else was struck by a stray. The police arrive quickly, and of course, you have to be buzzed in. So they're pushing the buzzer for somebody to let them in, and Bruce answers the buzzer, telling them to just come in and get it over with. He didn't open the door, he's just talking to them through the call box. He's basically like, I know why you're here. The police don't know what he's talking about, so they're like, excuse me? And he's like, I know why you're here, come in and get me. Mind you, they really don't know what's going on fully. And on the inside of the building, Bruce is now dousing his apartment with lighter fluid. He then buzzes them into the building, giving them access, strikes a match, and then flicks it right into the fuel. After that, he goes into the bathroom, locks himself in. The building is very quickly filling up with smoke, but the first thing that officers see is Smitty lying on the stairs, so they don't know which way to turn their attention to first. Smitty, the apartment with the smoke coming from underneath the door. They call for an ambulance to come out. They also call for the fire department to come out. And it's just a whole mess. They first remove Smitty. They then find Yvette and they remove her as well. She had unfortunately been hit once in the head and also in the neck. And when they get the door open to Bruce's apartment and get the door open to the bathroom, they find that he has ended his own life the same way that he had ended theirs and was lying in the tub. They get him on a gurney. All three of them are rushed to the hospital, and all three of them are confirmed deceased upon arrival. Smitty was 78, Yvette was 62, and Bruce was 59. And from the sounds of the neighbors' interviews, honestly, this event was shocking, but not all that shocking, because it seems like everybody was waiting on the moment that things will boil over. They knew something was going to happen. They just weren't sure what. And they did know that Bruce was capable of some horrific things, but I don't think any of them anticipated it being this horrific. I could not find anything on the sister. I don't know where Rosetta went. Rosetta got her things, and I guess she never looked back. I hope that's the case, because with how Bruce was acting, child, who knows if she really left on her own accord. Very unfortunate situation. That is it for this story. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Are familiar with one another. I can't talk, girl. I'm tripping. My tongue tripping over my teeth, girl. Smitty has an apartment on the second floor of a 5-story Harlem. Now, what am I talking about? Ronnie, who is the super innocent. Zeta, she is a resident of Smitty's building. That was the chair, that was not me, my God. Unfortunately suffered a hip injury that put him... Shh, don't get up here and do that. Look who wanna say hi. Say hi. You're not finna get up here and lick off my primer and things. He's a pretty girl. I see, and that's why you gotta get down, because you can't act right. Look at you. Look at you. You're such a cutie girl. Say hey to the people, girl. And since that Smitty is such a nice guy, like, if he only knew that he was making, he was unaware, and he assures Bryce, who is Bryce, girl, And when he finally, Bruce, despite Smitty telling him, despite, and Yvette kind of had an idea of going on, she has decided to keep that little tidbit of information. And Yvette and Smitty, they just are sitting there, and they had some, and all of the neighbor, Melody are sucking on her toes so bad. She eating them toes off the bone, baby. He walks up to Yvette, firing 2 fatal shots. So they're pushing the buzzer for somebody to alert.